Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this explosive edition of entertainment news where the world of British television just got a whole lot more dramatic. Imagine the set of ITV's beloved morning staple, Lorraine, buzzing with anticipation as one of the UK's most iconic comedic geniuses. Rowan Atkinson graces the studio. Known worldwide as the bumbling yet brilliant Mr. Bean, or the sharp-witted Blackadder, Atkinson has always been a master of subtle humor. His face alone capable of eliciting peals of laughter without uttering a single word. But on this fateful morning of September 26, 2025, what was meant to be a lighthearted chat about his latest project, a poignant Netflix special revisiting the absurdities of modern life through Bean's lens, spiraled into a confrontation that left jaws on the floor and headlines screaming across every tabloid from The Sun to The Guardian. Host Lorraine Kelly, the warm, effervescent Scotswoman who's been charming audiences for over 3 decades with her easygoing interviews and relatable banter, found herself at the center of a storm she never saw coming. As the cameras rolled at the usual 9 a.m. slot, the studio lights gleamed off polished surfaces, the audience clapped politely, and the aroma of fresh coffee lingered in the air, setting a deceptively serene scene. Atkinson, dressed in his signature understated elegance, a crisp navy blazer over a simple white shirt, his dark hair neatly combed, settled into the plush armchair opposite Lorraine, flashing that trademark sheepish grin that has endeared him to generations. "Rowan, it's an absolute delight to have you here," Lorraine began, her Scottish lilt wrapping around the words like a cozy tartan blanket. "After all these years, Mr. Bean is still making us chuckle at the chaos of everyday existence." Fast forward to the heart of the interview, where the innocuous chat about Bean's latest antics had veered into thornier territory, like a garden path overgrown with intellectual brambles. Lorraine, with her reporter's instinct honed from years of coaxing stories from reticent royals and rowdy rock stars, pressed on with the grace of a Highland dancer, but the persistence of a terrier on a scent. "Rowan, let's be honest," she ventured, her eyes locking onto his with that disarming sincerity that has made her a household name. "Your sketches have always pushed boundaries. Beanie's mishaps with authority figures, the subtle jabs at bureaucracy. But in today's climate, with movements like #MeToo reshaping how we view power dynamics, don't you think it's time to retire some of those tropes? After all, comedy evolves, doesn't it?" The question hung in the air, polite on the surface but laced with the undercurrent of challenge, a nod to recent backlash against classic comedians accused of insensitivity. Atkinson, who had spent the prior evening nursing a glass of single malt while scrolling through think pieces on the death of satire, felt the words like a velvet-gloved slap. His posture straightened, the casual slouch of the storyteller giving way to the rigid poise of a man defending his life's work. "Lorraine," he replied, his tone even but edged with steel. "Comedy doesn't evolve by committee. It's born from the raw, unfiltered absurdities of human folly. If we start excising every potentially offending element, what's left? A sanitized sitcom where no one ever slips on a banana peel for fear of bruising egos." The audience shifted uncomfortably, a few chuckles escaping like nervous hiccups, but the energy in the room had palpably altered. Production assistants exchanged glances off camera, fingers hovering over control panels, wondering if this was the spark of gold or the prelude to disaster. The tipping point arrived not with a bang, but with a question that sliced through the tension like a scalpel through silk, exposing nerves raw and reeling. Lorraine, her eyes gleaming with the fervor of a debater who's just found her opponent's weak flank, posed what she believed was the knockout blow. "Rowan, let's cut to the chase. Your Mr. Bean character, for all his charm, often portrays a man-child navigating a world of women who are either nagging or neglectful. In 2025, doesn't that reinforce stereotypes we'd rather dismantle? Be honest. Have you ever reconsidered those portrayals?" The studio fell into a pin-drop silence, broken only by the distant hum of air conditioning and the faint scribble of a producer's pen. Atkinson's face transformed in an instant, that iconic rubbery expressiveness twisting from thoughtful to thunderous, his lips pressing into a thin line as if holding back a torrent. For a man whose career was built on exaggeration for comic effect, this was no act. It was genuine indignation bubbling over like an unattended kettle. Stereotypes? Lorraine, Bean is a universal everyman. A cipher for all our idiocies. Not a manifesto on gender roles. To dissect him through such a narrow prism is to miss the forest for the trees, or in this case, the pratfall for the politics. His voice, usually a murmur of understated wit, boomed now, carrying the weight of unspoken defenses from countless late-night reflections on legacy and laughter. The audience, a mix of loyal Lorraine fans and Atkinson admirers lured by the guest list, murmured in uneasy solidarity, some nodding at his retort, others shifting as if the seats had grown thorns. Lorraine pressed on, her brogue sharpening like a blade on whetstone. But intent isn't impact, Rowan. Fans today are calling it out. Podcasts, forums, even your own fan pages. In the immediate aftermath, as the studio lights dimmed and the adrenaline ebbed like a receding tide, the ripples of Rowan's abrupt departure spread far beyond the confines of the London studio, crashing into the digital deluge that defines modern scandal. Within minutes, the clip, grainy yet gripping, captured by a quick-fingered viewer on a smartphone, had amassed over 1 million views on TikTok alone, dissected frame by frame in edits set to dramatic orchestral swells and snappy voiceovers decrying the death of free speech or cheering Lorraine's takedown of toxic tropes. Twitter, X, lit up like Blackadder's fireworks, with users from all corners weighing in, die-hard Bean enthusiasts flooding feeds with gifs of Atkinson slamming doors in silent protest, while progressive influencers praised Kelly's necessary accountability, their threads weaving through statistics on comedy's gender biases with the fervor of academic crusaders. Mainstream media piled on with the efficiency of a well-oiled press mill. The Daily Mail splashed, "Been there, done that," Rowan's Fury exit, across its front page, complete with paparazzi shots of a stone-faced Atkinson dodging lenses outside his agent's office, while the Times offered a more measured Atkinson versus woke, a comedy clash for the ages, interviewing veteran comics like Ricky Gervais, who tweeted succinctly, "Good on ya, Rowan. Laughter's not a lawsuit waiting to happen." Lorraine herself, ever the trooper, wrapped the show with a segment on the passion of public discourse. Her voice steady but eyes betraying a flicker of regret as she fielded co-host Christine Lampard's sympathetic glances. Off-air, in the sanctuary of her dressing room, surrounded by half-eaten scones and wilting flowers from well-wishers, she replayed the moment in her mind, wondering if a softer segue might have blunted the blade. As the dust settled on the Lorraine set, figuratively, since the crew had it spotless by noon the next day, the incident morphed from tabloid tinderbox into a teachable tome, prompting soul-searching across the entertainment ecosystem like a collective therapy session with tea and biscuits. Comedy circles, from the smoke-filled backrooms of Soho improv nights to the sun-drenched stages of LA stand-up specials, buzzed with Atkinson-inspired soliloquies, performers weaving the walkout into routines that poked fun at the interview that Bean couldn't fix. At the Edinburgh Fringe's tail end, a fledgling troupe debuted Storm in a Teacup, a sketch reenacting the clash with exaggerated accents and props, a rubber chicken for Rowan's retorts, a tartan tea cozy for Lorraine's queries, drawing roars of recognition and sparking post-show panels on where humor draws the line. Critics, those ink-stained oracles, chimed in with columns that read like love letters laced with litmus tests. The Spectator hailed Atkinson's exit as a noble stand against the comedy police, while The Guardian countered with Kelly's courage, calling out the clown emperor's new clothes, each piece dissecting dialogue with the zeal of literary detectives. Atkinson himself, emerging from his brief hermitage, granted a sit-down to the Telegraph's esteemed critic, Camilla Long, where he expounded on the sanctity of slapstick in measured tones that belied his onstage fire. "It's not rebellion for rebellion's sake," he confessed, fiddling with a cufflink like a fidgety bean, but a plea to remember that laughter disarms before it divides. His words, reprinted in broadsheets and bookmarked on blogs, resonated with peers. Stephen Fry penned a poetic tweetstorm likening it to Voltaire's wit, while Dawn French, in her newsletter, quipped, "Rowan, love, next time take me. I'll bring the éclairs and the exits."